Hello, you're listening to Count Richard von Coudenhove kalergi. Today is Friday, the 8th of March, and here's a couple of comments since my last video. In Germany, a federal criminal police report said the number of serious crimes amongst repeat offenders is particularly high amongst criminal migrants from North Africa. There has also been an increase in gang crime formed by Arab and Kurdish gangs. Police President Holger Munch, in a statement, sees a need to police these individuals more heavily, and we won't be able to solve problems that arose in the last 25 to 30 years in between 25 and 30 days. According to the report, 9% of all solved crimes in 2018 was committed by migrants. Migrants were also heavily responsible for over 10% of all serious and violent sex crimes. Improvement in the sharing of fingerprint with other Schengen area police forces resulted in 900 claims of fake identities. Berlin, the German government plans in future to introduce legislation that will enable German authorities to strip Germans with dual nationality of their German citizenship if they fight for terrorist groups abroad. This will apply to citizens over 18. The critical word is in future. Nothing to do with returning jihadis. In the Netherlands, a Dutch professor of sociology, Ruud Koopmans, claims in a report based on a 20-year study of integration and assimilation has come to the conclusion that Muslims are most difficult to integrate than any other migrant group, and went on to claim that no Western country has managed to successfully integrate Muslims. Around 65% of the Turkish and Moroccan Muslims in 6 European countries consider religious rules to be more important than the secular laws of the country in which they live in, and consider themselves separate from other non-Muslim groups. Up to 50% of Muslims hold fundamentalist beliefs, and in conclusion the professor said, the main problem is how many Muslims and many Muslim countries interpret the Quran, and that they literally the way that the Prophet lived is in the 7th century must be the yardstick of how Muslims should live in the 21st century. Such a brand of Islam is a threat to world peace and integration. I am reminded of a quote from Sheikh Hassan al-Banna, an Egyptian who founded the Muslim Brotherhood in 1928. It is the nature of Islam to dominate, not to be dominated, to impose its law on all nations and to extend its power to the entire planet. Quran verse 5 chapter 51 says, O you who have believed, do not take the Jews and Christians as allies, and whoever is an ally to them is one of them. And in Surah 8 verse 12, I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieved, so strike them upon their necks and strike from them every fingertip. Today is, as I said, is Friday the 8th of March, is International Women's Day, and to promote this, the UK Independent newspaper celebrated this by including in its paper 10 of the best female-only trips for solo travellers, with the statement, all hail adventurous solo females, and on behalf of the adventurous females everywhere. One of the trips by Intrepid Travel has launched a hiking trip starting in Marrakesh, lasting up to 8 days in the Atlas Mountains, provided you don't get your head chopped off, and ending in Azucuri, with a hike that is described as a breakdown of barriers, fostering discussion and creating an impressive local experience. I'm sure the two Scandinavians thought the same before they decided to head off, no pun intended, to Morocco against the concerns and wishes of family members, to prove a point that all peoples of the world are the same. I am reminded of a story from July the 29th, 2018, when 5 Islamic terrorists rammed a jeep into a group of 7 Western cyclists on a trip through Tajikistan, then set upon the injured with knives, killing 4, 2 Americans, a Dutch and a Swiss. People really need to educate themselves when travelling to an area of unsecure regions outside of tourist locations and capital cities. And in Birmingham, I never thought I'd see the day that it would be in agreement with Muslims. Furious Muslim parents have withdrawn their children from a primary school over classes that they believe promote homosexuality and LGBTI sexual education. 600 children who make up over 80% of the Parkfield Community School. The pupils aged between 4 and 11 are being kept out of school. That is 98% Muslim. Anger was directed at the Vice Principal, Andrew Moffat, who's in a civil partnership and who has resigned from a previous teaching post at another school after a row with Christian parents over the similar lessons. One of the protesters, whose 10-year-old daughter attended the school, said, We respect that Mr. Moffat is gay, but what they are teaching is not right. They are too young to learn about LGBTI issues. They should be learning about maths, science and English. And now a couple of domestic issues. Over here, they would rather take children out of school on March the 15th to promote as a global day of school strikes, who are driven by the alarming lack of government leadership on climate action over previous decades. The total acceptance that climate change is real is being pushed with the same religious furore, even to the extent that a climate skeptic is almost seen as some sort of heretic, and the cynical use of children as political tools is part of a process of indoctrination and teaching children to blindly follow instruction rather than teaching them how to think. I am reminded of a quote from Lenin, not the let it be guy, no, the nasty one, who said, Give me a generation of youth and I will transform the whole world. Over 100 Syrian refugees / economic migrants will be housed in Laois later this year. The Department of Justice and Equality has advised Laois County Council has been allocated 110 people for housing. This will comprise of 22 families who will be given 7 2-bedroom houses, 11 3-bedroom houses and 4 4-bedroom houses. Chief Executive John Mulholland outlined that the families are coming from war-torn areas and will be Garda vetted during the summer and spend some time in orientation centres before being allocated suitable housing before the end of the year. He also said that up to €250,000 would also be available to assist with interpreters and integration. Sounds like more of a sinister Minister Stanton's Friends of the Centre. In 2015, Laois welcomed in 13 families with over 50 women and children. Wicklow County Council has been advised that 38 Syrian families will be allocated housing under the Irish Refugee Protection Programme. Even though the war in Syria is effectively over and has been for nearly 1 year, with only sporadic fighting in certain areas virtually over with the defeat of ISIS, President Assad has asked that all displaced Syrians to return home and help rebuild their country. He has even offered an amnesty to any soldier who deserted Syria, that they can return home without fear of punishment and would only have to serve out the remainder of any of their military service. And with over 900,000 people returning to Syria last year, why is the government bringing in people with no mention of them ever going home? The migrants largely originate from Syria and Eritrea, are part of a commitment made by the Irish government to settle 4,000 refugees / economic migrants. Once in Ireland, they will be provided with temporary accommodation and must be informed of their rights and entitlements through an interagency committee and kept there until suitable accommodation has been identified, with the necessary support being provided. Is this about repopulating Ireland, especially when you consider family reunification? Surely this money would be much better spent in Syria and much more cost effective, where the language, traditions and culture would be more suitable, than in the rural counties of Wicklow, Laois and Waterford. Also today was announced that a former female member of the Defence Forces has been captured. This looks like another case of an ISIS bride, as she has a child. How about that? Don't you just love diversity? Last Monday, Gran Torino did an excellent live stream from Lismore, County Waterford, in the Heritage Centre. and no sooner had he started filming he was called a fascist by a member of the crowd. This meeting didn't go according to plan, with plenty of hostility and legitimate concerns expressed by members of the audience, including Gran Torino, repeatedly asking Minister for State David Stanton, "Can you confirm or deny the existence of ISIS members in direct provision?" A question he ignored on multiple occasions, and the questions and answer session descended into a farce, with one of the hosts, Evelyn Byrne, an ex-Lord Mayor of Dublin, a Fianna Fáil member and a director of the Refugee Protection Programme and chairman of the Holocaust Education Trust, telling one member of the 160 plus audience to sit down, very teacher-like, and another very Judge Dredd-like, "I am the Department of Justice." A parody that didn't escape the attention of the legend that is Spin Master and Gran Torino himself. Well, there are a couple of thoughts which are my own. Thanks very much for listening. Good night and good luck.